So I just saw Dora and the Lost City of Gold, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, it was still really, really bad, but at the same time, it was not awful and it could have been a lot worse. Starting with the positives, I did enjoy some of the set design in the movie. Some of the locations and puzzles looked pretty cool. I especially liked how the city of Parapata looked. A lot of effort was clearly put into the production design of the movie, and it did actually kind of pay off. Some of the dialogue kind of caught me off guard with how good it was, especially some exchanges between Dora and her grandmother early on in the film. The film was very well paced. I was very much dreading the part of the movie where Dora goes to high school, but thankfully it was over quickly. All in all, the film never managed to bore me, and it didn't feel like it was wasting time. Some of the acting was good towards the end of the movie. Yeah, it was only towards the end, but at least it was there. Some of the action choreography was well done. There's a really cool 2D animation sequence in the film. It wasn't the most original thing in the world, but it was visually interesting and a lot of fun to watch. And that's about it. It's not that much, but it's something. Now onto the stuff I didn't like so much. I already mentioned that I was absolutely dreading the high school portion of the movie, and I am glad that it was short, but Jesus Christ was it awful. I understand that there's a lot of stigma around cringe culture, but boy oh boy was this section of the movie ever cringe-inducing. It's just a series of unfunny jokes that don't really have any purpose in the movie. In all seriousness, it only exists to set up a couple of the characters, and unfortunately for the characters in this movie, the actors playing them do a terrible job. Isabella Monet was definitely trying her best as Dora, and there were a few parts where she was effective in her performance, but Jesus Christ is she held back by her line delivery. The movie pokes a lot of fun at stupid things from the TV show, but for some reason they decided to keep the awkward sentence structure Dora has. Every time she took a random pause for no reason whatsoever, it was the most infuriating thing in the world. It would be one thing if it was there for audience interactivity, but it's just placed in the middle of random dialogue. Wait a minute. That is not a male, it's a female. They're not fighting, they're mating. I also want to note that half the time she puts on a strange voice to convey happiness, and to say the very least, let's just say she's more believable in the emotional scenes. Jeff Wahlberg seemed like he wanted to leave the entire time. His role didn't really require much on his end, but he still did a pretty bad job regardless. Michael Pena was awful as expected. Nicholas Kumba was pretty annoying, but to be fair, so was his character in general, so I don't think he could have done anything with this script, even if he tried. Eugenio Derbez, I think that's how you pronounce it, I'll put his name up on the screen, gave one of the worst performances I've seen in a very long time. And hoo boy, Madeline Madden. Madeline Madden's performance in this movie was so unbelievably terrible for the most part that it became a big source of humor for me and my friend I saw the film with. She does not fit her character at all in this movie, and it's pretty hilarious to say the least. As her character developed, her performance got much better to the point where I'd even say it was good at the end of the movie, but oh my god, for most of this movie she's easily the funniest thing about it. Also, she is the goofiest movie run since Liam Hemsworth in Paranoia. Speaking of hilarity, this movie's comedy is not that effective. The film definitely didn't have zero good jokes or anything, but for the most part it was just cliche kids movie humor, and whenever the film was funny, it was usually because of how bizarre the plot got. However, before I go into that, I want to discuss a few other aspects to the film. For a start, in terms of cinematography, this is one of the blandest movies I've seen all year. I can't remember the last time I saw a movie with such boring framing choices. The visual effects were pretty bad and the CGI character designs were kind of terrifying. The costume design seemed like it took no effort whatsoever. Holy crap, does every costume in this movie just look like a costume. Dora herself looks like she just walked out of Party City. The film was pretty poorly edited. In the underwater sequence, there was a part that was just a bunch of quick cuts. I'm not even kidding, there's like 6 different shots that are not even shown for a second each. Also, the scene where Dora arrives in the airport is very noticeably dubbed. I swear to god they use the exact same take of "excuse me, sorry" 4 different times. The film also has no continuity whatsoever. There's a scene that takes place in quicksand and it never actually looks like they're sinking. They just cut to a different angle and all of a sudden they're much further in. Also, Dora, who happens to be an expert on the rainforest could not tell this was quicksand until they were way too far into it. There's a scene where one of the characters complains that they have to use the bathroom and there's a big fuss made out of it. They complain about how they've been holding it in for about 48 hours now, and Dora says, oh, for medical reasons you should probably, go do it. But all of these characters are in the rainforest for like 3 days. Apparently only one of the characters ever needs to do this over the course of these 3 days. What happened to those medical reasons, Dora? Another thing I should note is that part of the plot is just ripped out of the third Indiana Jones movie. I guess it was meant to be a bit tongue-in-cheek because one of the characters continuously goes, oh, I've seen plenty of movies in the jungle, I know all about this stuff. But it just felt like they were shamelessly ripping it off. Also, the movie ends with a whole sing dance routine thing. If you've ever seen a kids movie before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Admittedly, this scene was much better than most scenes that are like this. I enjoyed some of the jokes, and there was some nice color coding towards the end of the scene that was very satisfying to look at. But seriously, the scene serves absolutely no purpose in the film whatsoever. It just felt like they couldn't think of anything else to end the movie with. The final thing I want to mention before I go into spoiler talk about the plot is that for some reason there are scenes in this movie where Dora seems insane. And I don't mean, oh, she just does some crazy, stupid things that no human being would do. I am being as literal as possible here. She seems like she is genuinely insane in some of the scenes in this movie. Anyways, I'm going to go into spoiler talk for this movie now, so if you don't want spoilers for this film for whatever reason, then skip to the time code on the screen now. 3, 2, 1, go. So after Dora and all her friends get kidnapped, they're saved by this guy called Alejandro who claims to be a friend of Dora's parents. And he is the most obvious bad guy twist reveal I've ever seen. At one point in the movie, he even says, I'm the bad guy. And all I could think was, duh. It was so painfully obvious you have no idea. But anyway, he pretends to save them, and all of a sudden all the mercenaries are going after them, and all I'm wondering is why? If he's a villain as well, why did they feel the need to chase after them? On the one hand, you could argue that they needed Dora's map, so they had to go get it off her, but at the same time, if they really needed Dora's map, why would they let her out of the box they were keeping her in? Would it not heavily benefit you to just not let the kids out of the crate you had them in? And some of you may argue that they were just trying to make it look real by doing this, but then once Dora and her friends escape, they keep searching for them anyway? I don't understand why this was part of your plan. Just seems a bit overly convoluted and stupid to me. I already mentioned as well that the film has zero continuity whatsoever, and boy oh boy does that ever ring true with this character's clothes. First he is fully submerged in quicksand, but then in the next scene his clothes are completely clean. Then whilst high in a later scene, because the characters accidentally get high later on in the movie, he loses all of his clothes, but then in the next scene they're just all magically back. He is then completely submerged in water, but he's very quickly dry again. I do not understand how your clothes work. Also, I want to talk about something that happened in that quicksand scene that is less a plot hole, more just a why is this in a kids movie. So basically, while Alejandro is drowning in the quicksand, 2 scorpions go on top of his head, and Dora's like, oh, they're males, they're about to fight to the death on your head. And then someone else is like, wait a minute, it doesn't look like they're fighting. And you know that line of dialogue I gave you earlier to describe how Isabella Monet's pauses really affect her performance? Yeah, that's what happens. 2 scorpions bang on this guy's head. Never thought I'd be saying that in a review of the Dora movie, but here we are. Anyway, so eventually they find Dora's parents, and Alejandro's like, haha, I was evil all along. And he threatens to kill Dora if they don't help him, and they're like, okay, we'll help you. And he also threatens to kill the other teens, and they're like, I don't know those 3, so do what you want. But one of those 3 teens is Diego? You know, their nephew? Are you really willing to pretend your nephew doesn't exist and put them up to death? So yeah, that was kind of stupid. Another thing I want to mention is that Boots does not talk throughout the movie, but then later on he decides, you know what, I'm gonna talk because Dora's feeling upset. Basically, Dora's realized that her parents are probably going to die and there's nothing she can do about it. And Isabella Monet's performance in this movie is at its absolute best in this scene. I mean, sure, in real life this character probably would have been crying, but I'm willing to take what I can get. Anyways, Boots starts talking and he's voiced by Danny Trejo. Going into the movie, I already knew this, but I was nowhere near prepared for his voice acting in the film. Although, to be fair, his acting was kind of played as a joke, because he sounds nothing like Boots in the cartoon, so that was pretty good. Anyways, after Boots finishes his talk to her, Dora starts freaking out because she's like, Boots, you can talk, oh my god! And then her friends find her and they're like, oh, she must have hit her head because she thinks Boots can talk. But the entire movie, Swiper's been able to talk, and they've all heard Swiper talk. If a fox would be able to talk, why the hell would a monkey not be able to talk? After everything you've seen, why are you doubting this? Anyways, this film wasn't exactly good, but I at least had a good time watching it. It is entertaining enough for me to justify calling it a so bad it's good movie. Usually bad kids films are just kind of boring, but this one was at least entertainingly bad. And hell, I'll probably watch it again. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention the music was fine. The musical score served its purpose, but there was nothing special about the composition. Some of the comedic songs were funny, some of them were not. Easily the highlight in that sense was the Don't Be Dead song. Wow, Dora and the Lost City of Gold's gonna come for that Best Original Song Oscar. There was a really good Spanish cover of These Boots Are Made for Walking, which also fitted scene very appropriately. However, the end credits song was this song called Soy Yo, which was really annoying. I can kind of excuse it because they saved it till the end credits, which meant I could leave and not get a headache, but boy oh boy was it a bad song. Anyways, that's about all I have to say on this movie. If you're looking for an interesting new story, this is not the film for you. A lot of the movie just copies Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and even ignoring that, most of the plot is just kind of predictable. Yes, there are some very bizarre, strange things that happen in the film, but plot-wise it is pretty bare-bone cliche. However, if you're just looking to be entertained, then this is the film for you, because boy oh boy is this film ever good to laugh at. However, I would suggest leaving the kids at home, because in my screening they were bored out of their minds. How do I know that? Oh, I don't know, maybe the kids complaining to their parents that they were bored was what tipped me off? At one point, a kid in the row behind me just said to his mom, "Mommy, I'm bored!" And both I and the person I saw the film with nearly burst out laughing. But yeah, check this one out if you haven't already, because it is pretty entertaining, although not for the reasons it thinks it is. And I'm giving Dora and the Lost City of Gold a 3 out of 10. That's the end of this video. Like, share, subscribe, I'm bad at outros, and I'll see you in whatever I do next.